Are we strong? Do we stand united? That includes all you fucking metalheads and all you hardcore assholes.
I guess tell me something if you can't hear me or if it sounds fucked up. I don't fucking know.
Let's go. We're recording. This is the episode, Kings of Punk, episode 4. This is about thrash metal today. Tell us if you can't hear us, and if you have any questions, just send it to us.
You recording on there?
I am recording.
Oh, we are recording.
I'll probably keep it open, actually.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.
So we have a special guest today.
Special guest.
My longtime good friend Jared Tinkham is here. He was gracious enough to join us for this one. Jared, if you don't mind, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what you do and what your history is with us and with the music we'll be discussing today, thrash metal.
Sure. So my name is Jared. I'm here, born in Rochester, New York. Started to get into metal in high school when I started playing guitar, and very quickly gravitated towards bands like Metallica and Slayer, and that kind of became like everything that I wanted to be able to do and learn. Good friend of mine named Billy ended up starting a heavy metal band for his senior project at School Out Walls, where I went to, and we started writing riffs together and put together this band called Infernal Abyss with a few other people in the punk scene. Jake Spezio being the bass player and some other drummers and stuff. And from there, it kind of went through some different lineup changes and everything, but eventually just kind of turned into like this like death thrash like trio band that I was in with Owen Staropoli on bass, or on drums, and Jake Spezio on bass. And just very quickly turned into kind of like this giant like riff zone thing of everything I wanted it to be, which was modeled around like all of my favorite like death thrash bands like Morbid Saint and Atheist and things like that. So I played in that band for a while, and then also ended up playing in other bands like Death Camp and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd like to think I know a lot about thrash metal, or at least have a lot of opinions about it, and I'm glad to be here and talk some shit about the top four.
We were all big fans of Infernal Abyss. That band was great.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
And in case there's any new listeners, that was our guest Jared. My name's Jake. We have Tyler and Tim here as well.
We are the main hosts.
I am now roommates with these gentlemen as well. I moved in this week,
Yep.
which is excellent. I'm wearing sweatpants to show that I'm comfortable and that I live here.
Yep.
Nice.
So, yeah, I guess should we go over how we think about, like...
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah. What are your
sure.
thrash thoughts, Tyler?
So, the premise of this episode is that we were going to listen to the big four. If you don't know who the big four of thrash metal are, it is Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax. They are considered the big four because they are kind of like the biggest of that genre, and they also kind of came around the same time, the early 80s, early to mid 80s. Megadeth starting, I believe, in like 83, when Dave Mustaine got kicked out of Metallica, and Metallica in 81, Slayer in 1980, and so on. So we wanted to listen to or discuss those four bands because they are important to punk music to some extent, whether people want to admit or not, especially some more than others. And we wanted to talk about what kind of like our thoughts on them, but more importantly, talk about the best and the worst albums from them, and who is the better, who is the best, and who is the worst of the big four. And I think the opinion, what you may think that we think might be a little wrong or might be on point. But as far as me, I got into Metallica when I was probably like 13. That was like the heavy metal band I got into. I was like, oh shit, Metallica. Like, I'm going from like rock music to like metal. It's like, this band fucking rules. And so I listened to Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning like a shit, and Kill 'Em All like a shit ton. Didn't really get into the other ones until like a few years later, when I was kind of like already ensconced in metal.
At that point, you became a huge fan of the album Load.
Yes. I was like...
And then later, Reload.
Yes, I was like, load it up. And then they're like, we're reloading. I was like, what?
Oh, snap.
I was like, unload? And they're like, no.
Yeah, we won't go that far.
What about you, Tim? What's your
Unload
thoughts?
is just load unplugged.
I mean, thrash is I think it has its place in time. Being like a kid, definitely hearing it. Like you said, I think we all probably heard Metallica and all those bands when we were like young teenagers. I would think. And I don't know. I mean, I think they're a good starting point to get into heavier forms of metal or whatnot, or even different stuff, even punk, I guess, like you said.
I think I mean I heard Metallica when I was in I think like middle school too. Around the same time I was taking out all these punk CDs from the library. I was like, fuck it, I'll get Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning too. I think actually my first exposure to this stuff was I got a CD it was a collection of live recordings from Woodstock 99, and the one song I actually liked on it was a live version of Creeping Death.
That song's awesome.
That's like one of their best songs. But
they played Woodstock 99?
Apparently, yeah. And then after that, after I got into hardcore and stuff, at the time Municipal Waste was like a huge band. And I liked their first two albums a lot. From there, I kind of got into, I liked Anthrax a bit at the time. Slayer, I didn't get into till later. I was a little bit older. Like those might have been early 20s when I started listening to Slayer.
You just didn't like it when you first heard it?
I remember, it didn't grab me. I didn't really try listening to it though. I also when I got into Slayer, I was already acclimated to other metal because I got into punk and did almost everything I could with that. And then I started, our friend Noah got me sort of back into metal. Some new wave of British heavy metal stuff. I listened to some black metal stuff, Dark Throne I got into, a little bit of death metal. This was all still in high school. Since then, in more recent years, I have not listened to, the only thrash band, I have consistently come back to Kill 'Em All by Metallica, and I listen to Slayer a lot.
Album.
Other than that, since then, I would say I've mostly, in terms of listening to metal, gravitated more towards like either 70s stuff or black metal. So in preparation for this episode, it was interesting revisiting some of that stuff. And today, we're going to look at some of the good albums, some of which I was not even that familiar with. I think the real treat will be in the last bit of this episode when we look at the terrible albums. Tyler's criteria for this was going on Rate Your Music and looking at the highest and lowest.
I guess we're echoing. Maybe we should turn you down.
My shit is turned all the way down.
Is it?
You should just turn me off.
Turn you off?
Yeah, just click the fucking thing off.
Most people want to be turned on.
Or I can do it in a second. Here we go. Regardless, I am especially excited for the last... Sorry, I already said that. Tyler's criteria for this was he went on Rate Your Music and looked at the highest and lowest rated albums for all these
Yes, we're going by
bands.
Rate Your Music.
Yes. There may have been a failure of democracy there, I think, but we'll get into that in a
questionable
second.
choices on
Yes.
what is considered the best and worst,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, why wasn't Lulu on there?
Yeah, somehow not. That wasn't the worst one.
We can't get into Lulu because I want to do an entire episode on it. I have a lot to say about Lulu.
I am the table.
I would say this is what. So the best album based upon that is for Metallica. It's Ride the Lightning, which is a little bit higher than Master of Puppets. So I don't know. Then you have Slayer with Rain and Blood. Makes sense, right, people? And then you have Anthrax, Among the Living. And you have Megadeth, Rust in Peace.
I'm honestly surprised Rust in Peace got picked for that. That's actually my favorite
Yeah.
Megadeth album, but I would figure it would be like Peace Sells or something else like that. So I'm really stoked about that. I love
Rust in Peace is a great album. I think it's their best because that's like their new lineup. They kind of changed everything.
Marty Friedman.
is so
Woo!
good. Nick Menza.
Peace Sells is just, it seems underwhelming, honestly,
Yes.
compared to Rust in Peace, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the title track on that tune, or at least the first tune, is about like him being afraid of waking his wife up when he comes home late. Because if she wakes up, she's gonna kill him.
Oh, yeah.
So I
wake
think
up
that
dead.
tells
Yep.
me everything I need to know about that fucking
See, Megadeth of all these bands we're discussing is the one that I have always been the least into, and had delved into the least. I think I listened to Peace Sells when I was in high school because at the time I was just vociferously consuming metal stuff.
Here's the thing. Do you think that Megadeth is probably like the least punk because I think they kind of have like the least punk crossover? But I'm pretty
Yes.
sure Dave Mustaine loves the Sex Pistols. He's covered multiple songs.
he
by
did a
then.
punk
Didn't they do
band.
a cover? Yeah.
He did a punk band with Lee Ving.
Oh, he did.
Really?
MD45. Yeah.
How is that?
I haven't
Probably
heard
not
it.
good.
Interesting. Probably not good. No, so for the purpose, so in advance of this, I listened to Rust in Peace a bit. I understand why people like it. There's like a lot of impressive riffing. For me, it is more techy than what I generally go for. I'm not someone who's like anti-musicianship by any stretch, but I'm generally not a fan of like particularly like frantic sounding riffs. That's not
Frantic tick-tock.
We'll get there. We'll get to that. Because that I am a fan of, but I can discuss that later. And the other, I guess, criticism I would have of this band is that I think his vocals are really annoying. That would be my biggest gripe.
They're terrible.
Agree.
Also, Mustaine as a human being is hilarious.
Yes.
Because he is more of a dickhead than the guys in Metallica, which is shocking.
Dude, he got drunk one day, out of the many days he got drunk, and kicked James Hetfield's dog. Like, fucking punted that motherfucker.
Wow.
Damn.
That's fucked
That's
up.
crazy.
Also, I noticed in researching for this episode that the bad album of theirs that we were supposed to listen to was one called Super Collider. We can cover the content of that album later, but for now I'll say that when I looked it up on Spotify, I saw there is also an album of commentary for that record.
Yeah.
Where it's just for every track.
Oh, man, that's great.
Make sure you're talking to the mic. For every episode, or for every song, it's Mustaine talking about the song. Completely gratuitous. Like I'm trying to imagine the mindset of someone who would decide, okay, I've done an album. You know what people want to hear? Me talking about my own music. There's a classic interview with him where they ask him what bands he likes from the metal scene, and he's like, I like Diamond Head, I like Motorhead. Other than that, I don't really listen to a lot of music because I'm mostly just invested in my own music.
That's
Incredible.
I fucking hate when people
Or
say
bands that have
shit.
had in the name of them.
That's like, what's his dude from Integrity? I remember him. Someone like, if I want to hear a new record, I make it. Shut the fuck up, dude. Like, I mean, at the same time, I love all the new Integrity stuff. I think it's great, but it's just like, damn, dude. Like, I can't imagine being like, there's literally nothing else to offer in the world that anyone else could be making except what I'm making. Unless you have like weirdly specific tastes like he does, I can kind of maybe see that, but it's not like he's doing anything like that out of the ordinary where it's like, wow.
I just don't see how he's gonna try and act like Megan Thee Stallion isn't like still making music,
Yeah, right?
Dave Mustaine clearly hasn't seen the 6ix9ine documentary yet.
And I would say
You should.
for me, Rust in Peace is Megadeth in general is like a band that I never really listened to before October, where I listened to every single album of theirs in a row. And I'd say they're better than Metallica in terms of like being able to be consistent. Like their worst and their best is like closer than you would think, versus Metallica's best and worst is like much farther. Like,
I don't know what you mean.
So, on a fundamental level, Saint Anger is a terrible album. Like on like a lot of like levels, it's like this is not good. It doesn't sound like Metallica. Like if you listen to a Metallica that album and compared it to Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets, it's like this isn't the same band. How could this be? But
that's why it's a good
maybe
record.
That's why it's a good
I'll get
record.
to
But
that later.
Megadeth, you do the same thing, and it's like, oh, this is still Megadeth. It just kind of sucks. And I think the same thing is with Slayer. Slayer, it's like every album is still Slayer. Whether it sucks or not, it's still Slayer.
Anthrax definitely falls into that, Metallica category.
So I guess we got two
where
divides
they-
here.
Yeah.
We got Megadeth and Slayer, who are like very like they try.
Pretty
they're
consistent.
Sound like
I would
we're in
agree with
agreement that
consistent
those are the
for
most
sure.
consistent
Especially
of those
Slayer, yeah.
bands.
Oh yeah.
Now, Among the Living, I never really listened to like you said you had. I never really listened to it, and they're really. I think it's pretty good.
Among the Living is the Anthrax record for the uninitiated
The
who may be
top
listening.
rated one.
definitely like something I wouldn't really listen to because it has the singing thrash vocals, but
Which can be really cool, but in my opinion, I don't think that band does.
They're not bad in that band. They're just not great. Among the Living I liked a lot in high school, I think, because I was into fucking Municipal Waste and like that sort of bouncy, fun thrash
goes to
vibe.
my thoughts is that like I think Anthrax is like that crossover. Anthrax is like people who are into crossover probably really like them because they have like a shit ton of like those circle pit kind of riffs, very moshy versus Metallica, not as moshy. Like
not in the same way, not like the circle pit part. Now, they have breakdowns. The Creeping Death breakdown might be like the best breakdown I've ever heard.
The main riff to Ride the Lightning is like is fucking hard as shit.
It's heavy.
That's
yeah.
Well, that was Dave though, wasn't it? That was Dave Mustaine.
Yeah, I
who wrote
think
that.
Dave definitely is. Dave is definitely credited with writing "Ride the Lightning" and with "Call of Cthulhu" and maybe one more on that album.
I think he wrote 6 songs. I think 4 of them just straight up on Kill 'Em All, which is really funny. And it's just like, damn. But yeah.
Do you know about Four Horsemen?
He
and
wrote
Mechanics?
Metal Mlit.
Oh yeah, that's like practically the same
So
song.
Mechanics
isn't
is
it?
a Megadeth song that's literally the exact same riffs as
Really?
Four Horsemen, but like twice the speed.
Oh, damn.
Like it was like literally like a straight up just like
think
he's like, I'm
Mechanics-
gonna flex on these motherfuckers. I'm gonna play the song that I wrote with them that they still use, but I'm gonna play it faster and better. Ironically, I think it sounds like shit because I think Four Horsemen's a pretty cool tune, but like
the tempo
it's
is
the
a good choice on that one,
literally
yeah.
exactly the same riffs. But
I think
twice as
Mechanics
fast.
is on the Metallica demo, but I referenced the Failure of Democracy earlier. I think in terms of my personal preference, as I said, Kill 'Em All is the one that I come back to the most. Now, in preparation for this episode, I did listen to Ride the Lightning. It is fucking great. Like I said, Creeping Death is a tremendously powerful song. That fucking riff is just
Tremendous.
It's just unrelenting. Another thing I will give Metallica some credit for, I think an Achilles heel of the entire metal genre is having just really bad lyrics. And I wouldn't really say any of these bands have good lyrics, but Metallica's lyrics are less bad, as are Slayer's. The song Fade to Black, I think is a very it's a pretty good song about depression. He actually nailed it pretty well.
Yeah.
So I got to give them some credit for that. The Metallica ballads on those records work. Master of Puppets I have kind of mixed feelings about because Lars is already doing goofy shit on drums, and the songs are very long again. This is my gripe with that band is that they have such long songs.
That's their thing in general, though.
Yeah, and that's why I like Kill 'Em All is because they weren't doing that yet.
Well,
Some of the
actually,
Metallica songs on Kill 'Em All are pretty
Remorse.
long, though. Like Seek
Some
and
of 'em are-
Destroy and Metal Militia are long as a bitch.
Four
dude.
Horsemen's
No
long
Remorse
too.
is like
Yeah.
6 minutes
Yeah.
long, I think.
Yeah.
You're right.
Dude, we've named half
Damn.
the album. That whole album's
I
fucking
mean,
long,
even
dude.
the bass
They
solo
must be
is
really
like
good then, 'cause I
fucking
didn't
5
notice.
minutes too, isn't it? Yeah.
I didn't notice how long they were, so that's a testament.
That's the
to how
only
good
album that's
that
got like
record
10 tracks, too, like, before you get to like Black Album and all that shit,
Yeah.
too.
I think I'm with Jake on the. I disagree with the. I think Kill 'Em All is probably the. I think that's their.
I could understand thinking Ride the Lightning's better though. It is like more mature songwriting.
See, I can see. I'm surprised that it was like literally a cunt hair above
Okay.
Master of Puppets.
I think it gets more props though, and people
Master
love
of Puppets
Master
gets
of
more
Puppets.
props.
I think the way this is just me, but I think Kill 'Em All is a very separate album from Metallica in comparison to
Yeah.
everything else. And I specifically think that Ride the
Yes.
Lightning, Master Puppets, and Injustice for All have a very similar consistency, both in terms of the formula used on the album with the track listing alone, but
Mm-hmm.
also with the producers, like Flemming Rasmussen and all those guys. Sorry if I said that wrong. And just like, there being an instrumental in every single thing and like the
Yep.
same slot, like almost too, and like how the fourth tune is always like the ballad and everything like that.
I do like that about those albums.
I think it's great.
That shows a maturity of songwriting. I appreciate it. I always appreciate it when bands have repeating themes and,
it never
and
felt-
motifs.
It never felt forced in those
Yeah.
albums
Yeah.
too. It wasn't like, okay, it's track 4 on the album, time to write that fucking banger ballad. Like it never
Yeah.
felt like
Yeah.
that. Like everything after that is very random. But like those 3 albums together, I feel like are like a giant like almost concept kind of.
I mean,
thing.
the other-
Whereas, like Kill 'Em All is
Yeah.
like that first album that like every band does where they like don't really know their own
Yep.
sound yet, and it's really
correct,
unorganized in like the best possible way.
The other
Super
the other noteworthy thing about Kill 'Em All, and I'll get to this again in a
Mm-hmm.
second when we segue eventually. weren't they like fucking 20 years old when they
There's
made
something
Kill 'Em
like
All?
Because they started
were
in 81,
children.
so those songs were probably like written for like they didn't come out till 83. So those songs were like we got them, like we have them, they're down, like
They were
And
so
then, like,
young.
Ride
I
the
mean,
Lightning came
I could
out-
feel the youth coming off of the record. Like, it makes me feel fucking young again.
I
listening
believe.
to it.
I'm pretty sure they recorded that record in
They did.
Rochester.
It was
yeah.
recorded in
Rochester,
Rochester,
yeah.
New York, baby. Rock City.
Oh yeah.
Stand up.
And I think we should talk about Slayer for a little bit because they got Rain and Blood, and I think that's like a crowning achievement for thrash. Because if you think about where everyone was kind of what everyone was kind of doing at the time, like Metallica put out Master of Puppets, Cliff was dead. I don't know, maybe not. I don't know what the timeline is. Maybe Cliff is alive.
I think he died right after.
Yeah, sometime around
But-
that.
86, Master of
87,
Puppets
I
come
think.
out.
Yeah.
And then we have Rain and Blood, which Rain and Blood is almost like the polar opposite of like what
Yeah.
Metallica is doing. Metallica writes long songs. They're like, we're gonna play really fast and really short. We're like not gonna repeat a lot of times. I mean, we're not gonna like go into long tangents. There's not gonna be like these long intros. Some of the songs, I think, like piece by piece, is just like immediately starting. Like it, it does not hesitate.
Necrophobic. I mean, that song's like a minute
Necrophobic's really
long.
short, yeah.
Love that song.
I think that's why I kind of like that one the most of those four albums, because it's just like this is what I want my like thrash metal to be. Is
And when you have songs that short, you know, it makes it really easy for them to be specifically placed on the album in a certain way. Like, I can't remember which one comes first, but I always thought that Jesus Saves going into Altar of Sacrifice, or maybe it's Altar of Sacrifice going into Jesus Saves, sounded really fucking sick.
I think it's that. Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
almost
like
as if they're the same
seamless,
tune,
yeah.
but like you can get away with that when the songs are shorter and they have those energy bursts like that, because everything flows in a really cool way. Whereas Metallica, it's like kind of like you're listening to various movements of like a giant like symphony piece. Like it's like a very long, very purposefully orchestrated thing. Whereas Slayer is like very quick and to the point, and like leaves that time for the listener to adjust and maintain their listening to it.
Now, Jared, you are, for listeners who don't know, a professional guitar player. I was curious what your opinion on Hanneman's solos are, because I am a big fan.
Woo!
I can give you my non-schooled opinion on it momentarily, but what do you think of his playing?
So this might sound very ignorant and opinion based, but I don't really care.
That's all we do here.
I think Jeff Hanneman's fucking sick, man. I think he's really cool. I think I've always kind of liked him more than Kerry King, which is funny because they're both extremely similar, but just different enough where if you showed me a Slayer song I'd never heard before, I think I could tell who was soloing at what time. But I remember the first time hearing the opening track, Angel of Death, which I think is my favorite Slayer song by far, just because everything about it is just really great and organized and perfect. But the solos on that are really intense, and they're just switching on and off from like one to the other.
Yeah.
And I had never heard that before. You know, like I had heard like really cool harmony leads in Metallica or fucking Scorpions or some shit like that. But to hear like something that's extremely intense, you're like, oh my God, what is happening? And then it goes to something else where like you kind of almost can't even tell that it's a different guitar player until you realize it's panned, and you're like, holy shit, like this is really fucking crazy. Like,
because James,
I
I
don't know.
don't think did any solos really.
He did a few. It was kind of like one per album. Like he had like the wax solo on the Master of Puppets tune. He played like the kind of cool solo on Nothing Else Matters. I feel like there's something on Ride the Lightning I can't think of. It's probably one of the tunes I don't give a shit about,
Yeah,
like
I
Escape
like
or something.
I
Sorry, dude.
think I think that's because when I think of Slayer, or I guess when I think of thrash metal, I think the band that like has contributed probably the most to the overall genre of like thrash metal is Slayer, because like the solo thing, that is like a thing you hear in like a lot of thrash bands. It's just like crazy amount of solos where it's like panned, going one from the other, like they're sounding different, super fucking fast. Like Metallica, there's not bands that sound like Metallica. You know what I mean? Like, and if they are, they're a raw rock band.
They're
Trivium.
I guess.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Enough though. I mean, I don't know, but most bands, in general are not very good. So there's like a lot of bands that sound like
Yeah.
Anthrax if you go back and listen to thrash too. For me, the thing with Slayer, and I would start with Hanneman's playing to sort of highlight this. He's like a fucking avant-garde guitar player. His shit is so discordant and all over the place and fucking abrasive. Like, at that point, he was playing even on Show No Mercy, he's playing really abrasive, all over the place shit that, like, I don't know how many rock guitar players from any genre had even done that before. He's playing his guitar like he's fucking Ornette Coleman or something. Like, it's just
That's a really fair point, yeah.
Not intentionally at all. Like, I'm sure he probably never listened to that shit, but, like, it's fucking like that. So to me, in at least some sense, I would put Slayer like head and shoulders above not just any of these bands, but really most bands in the metal genre. Period.
Totally.
Because they were truly, and I can't read their minds, so I don't know how deliberate this was, but they were pushing boundaries. Whether or not you enjoy the music more, like they were pushing the boundaries not just of metal, but of music broadly to like a greater extent than most of these other groups, I think. Like, again, I don't know what to call it other than avant-garde. They might hate that description, but that's kind of what I take away from it. I can hear this especially, and we can come back to this. My favorite record there is probably Hell Awaits.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I was just going to say that.
Hell Awaits
is terrifying.
Dude, it's one of the only records I've ever...
It's very scary.
It's one of the only records that's ever scared
Is that the
me.
one that starts with the pitch-shifted vocals in the beginning?
They're like going backwards.
They're back. It's Join Us, but backwards.
Yes. And then when Araya's vocals come in, they're really fast.
Yeah, they're
It's-
extremely
it's-
fast.
That fucking album, man, that shit'll fuck you up. Dude.
There's another tune on there. It's either it's like Kill Again.
Kill Again is the second one.
It's the one that's about the vampires or whatever, and you get to like the breakdown part right before the solo, and there's like this echoing sound in the background that's just saying "kill" over and over again. That's getting louder and louder. And I remember the first time hearing this being like, oh my god, like am I like in a horror movie right now? Like what is going on?
It's
really
something
subtle,
that-
really cool shit.
And this is an extremely subjective. I don't think anyone has a good description for this term, but like I would call that album especially, but that band more broadly, art more readily than I would call Megadeth art. I'm not gonna say Megadeth isn't art, but like I'm not in a hurry to tell Mustaine that.
You're right, because the issue, and I think maybe even Dave Mustaine himself would kind of agree to this to some degree. The issue with Dave Mustaine and Megadeth is that he was like too concerned with like chasing Metallica, because the album Risk, which we didn't listen to, but that might be, I think that's almost as bad. That's worse
way
than
worse
Super
than
Collider.
Super Collider. That's like fucking. That's like modern rock radio.
And we'll get to the worst
garbage.
albums in a second.
What year was Risk?
Well, let's-
1999.
hold on. Here's the thing. I wanted to take a break in a little bit just to, get everything. The issue with Risk is literally Dave Mustaine being like, I'm gonna try and write a Black album. He literally said that.
Are you talking about Risk or Countdown
Risk.
to Extinction?
Risk. Risk.
Because I feel like Countdown to Extinction.
Symphony of
is-
Destruction.
Yeah.
You'd think that you
Shit
would.
is also
Now here's the
fucking
thing.
stupid.
You'd think that, but no, because I remember literally in an interview, he's talking about Risk is like his way of trying to do like a Metallica thing, and it fails terribly.
Oh,
Metallica
miserable,
thing is in the
yeah.
Black
Yes,
album.
and like
is
the
that what you're
black,
talking
and
about?
like the more commercially.
Why the fuck would you want to
appealing
do that?
thing. So the issue with Megadeth is that he was constantly trying to attain something and like get something that he should have just been Megadeth, and the other bands don't really necessarily do that much.
This just came to mind to me. Think about how sad that is psychologically, because Mustaine is so tremendously talented.
Yeah.
The fact that he became, but I can relate because I have been moronically single-minded. with
Jacob's
certain
also
things as
tremendously talented.
well. I also want to be Metallica. That's funny. Putting better words in my mouth. But think about the fact that such a talented guy was so consumed by that, and I think. I mean, we could do a whole episode on the psychology of all these guys. I think we've all seen some kind of monster, so we know a little
Hell
bit
yeah,
about
fuck
that.
yeah.
I haven't, unfortunately.
Oh, we got to watch it. It's
Someday.
great. And did you say you wanted to take a break?
Yeah. Finish your thing. We'll take a quick break after that.
Okay. So what I was going to say, again, for me, Slayer, I think it's just a cut above for me with these bands. And here's what it comes down to for me. when I listen to that band, it's not like I'm just listening to a rock band or a metal band. It really conjures something that is beyond the imagery of a band playing. For me, the idea, because heavy metal's always been concerned with like the otherworldly and the supernatural and all this kind of stuff. But it's one thing to sing about that; it's another thing to have it happen on the level of experience. I think like the ideal experience of consuming heavy metal for me, let alone seeing a show live, is like I want to be the mad cultist in a fucking H.P. Lovecraft story. Like I want to gaze upon something that's beyond human comprehension and be driven to ecstasy by it. That's the ideal heavy metal subject, is going apeshit as you gaze upon this horrifying thing. But it's horrifying precisely because you can't wrap your head around exactly what it is. Again, Lovecraft, good frame of reference here. And I think of the good albums we've talked about, Slayer captures this most effectively. I feel like exactly such a subject they've created that, because there's something sublime to that sort of horror. It's a sublime horror. Now, in preparation for this episode, I gazed upon an additional horror, and perhaps the greatest horror of all. I spent some time with the album Saint Anger. And of course, the greatest horror I found in this is that I enjoyed exactly this album. I actually had a good time listening to it. And that was a truly sublime and baffling horror. And in our next bit, I can plead my case a little bit as to why I became such a mad cultist subject whilst listening to that record that is objectively dog shit.
This sounds like clickbait.
So
You'll never guess which Metallica album is this guy's favorite.
So, question is, so before
my favorite album is Load, obviously. I like live shit, Binge and Purge.
You don't like S&M?
I like S&M.
So
Metallica sex record.
Not the album.
Dude, I'm pissed off that it literally just stands for Symphony and Metallica. I was always like, S&M, it's
They're
supposed
so
to be
stupid. How are they so
twisted.
dumb?
What a
No,
waste.
it's not. It's just some fucking dumb bullshit.
It's all gotta be Lars. Like his stupidity.
People will think it's funny, man.
So
traps
let's
him.
before
really
we
is,
let's I don't want to get into what is. Let's go around and let's say our favorite of the our favorite album of the big four of these bigger of Ride the Lightning. This is only these four albums, not our personal favorite. This is based on Rate Your Music. So if you're mad, go on Rate Your Music and fucking give these.
Write a bad review for these records.
Bring those numbers down, or bring them up. So this is Ride the Lightning by Metallica, Rain in Blood, Among the Living, and Rust in Peace. Which one is the best of those?
Is this our personal opinion or like in thrash overall?
Of those four, because I might not even think that those are. I don't think those are the best thrash. Those aren't my favorite thrash albums.
No.
But for me, I think Rain in Blood, out of those four, Rain in Blood is the best one because I think it fundamentally changed like what thrash metal was. And it really injected something else into it to the point where Slayer were like, we can't even do something else like this. We're going to play slower again on South of Heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, South
Which
Heaven. Yep.
I fucking love South of Heaven. Maybe one of my favorite. Maybe I might like that more than Rain in Blood. But I rest my case. For me, out of those four, Rain in Blood is the best of those.
I'll throw this as a curveball. I think Ride the Lightning is the weakest out of those four.
Whoa,
That is a hot take.
Interesting.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad album by any means.
Yeah.
But I just feel, honestly, I feel like I just have more of a connection to those other four records. I would rather put those on before, Ride the Lightning.
What would you say is your favorite? What's out of those four? What is the best one though?
Honestly, I think it's a tie for me between Rain and Blood and the Anthrax record.
Interesting.
What's your favorite Anthrax tune on that album?
I really like that song Imitation of Life. I think it's the last song on the record. That one's really good. The song Among the Living, that's really good, too.
Is that the first tune?
Yep.
The first tune sounds pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
That NFL.
Yeah,
song
NFL is
cool.
good.
yeah, that one's really good, too. That one's about John Belushi.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I think I do.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
They have a lot of acronym songs, I think. Because there's one or two.
Yeah, AIR is also on, that's not.
Yeah,
on
I was like,
84,
two acronym songs, and none of the other bands really have that. I was like, is that like their contribution to metal? Is acronym songs or something like that? Like,
well, they had they had like that crossover connect, like that weird. It was like punky.
you know why? It's because they're from
I don't-
fucking
yeah.
New York, and they're the outlier. I think I talked about it.
They definitely are.
Anthrax
yeah.
wasn't
No,
Bay
they're
Area?
from New York.
No, they're from New York City. Yeah.
That's kind of sick. I didn't know that. That's actually really cool.
That's why they got a little swagger in those
Yeah.
mosh parts, which is why they are
And they
good.
technically have one of the first rap rock songs with "I'm the Man."
That song
And then the
is tight.
Public Enemy song
Public
too.
Enemy.
I like that shit.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2.
Yep.
So, Jake, what is
There-
your favorite of those? What do you think is the best of those four?
Okay, so in advance of this, I was a bit torn between Ride the Lightning and Rain and Blood because I do think Ride the Lightning, make no mistake, it absolutely pushed and indeed crossed boundaries within the genre. Like, that is absolutely given the maturity of songwriting, the lyrical content on that record. Again, he gets into more personal stuff that a lot of metal bands don't. That I think was a big step forward for better or
Which
for
album?
worse.
Ride Lightning?
Yeah. So that indeed pushed the boundaries of thrash metal, and I like it for that reason. I have to go with Slayer because I think Rain and Blood and Slayer more broadly not only didn't just cross boundaries within thrash metal, but they crossed a boundary in their art in general, really into the realm of the sublime in a way that I don't think I could say about a lot of these other bands. I mean, the music that they were playing, the way it was structured, the solos especially, his vocal delivery, everything transcended the realm of the mundane in a way that I don't think any of these other bands quite managed to do, and few groups managed to do.
And Jared, what is out of those four? What do you think is the best?
This is tough. So Ride the Lightning has definitely had the most impact on me as a musician, as a guitar player. You know, it really made me like everything I wanted to do was based off of that album pretty much. But I'd say that Rain and Blood, I think, would be more important for thrash overall, just because, you know, thrash isn't necessarily about like having these like genius riffs and having these like really through composed like lengthy song structures. It's about playing really fast and being very scary and being very intense, and I think that's what Slayer did really well. But I think Rust in Peace is the most important for guitar players because Rust in Peace, I think for me was like showed me that like thrash doesn't have to be just like power chords and like tremolo picking like open E's. Like that fucking song Take No Prisoners, guys, like that's like riff city.
That's all
like,
just
just riff. Like everything is genius. It's super technical, but it sounds extremely good, and they mess around with a lot of like weird harmonies like in the Five Magics and like Tornado of Souls. Hangar 18 is like the faster version of Call of Cthulhu. I mean, there's just some magnificent like riffs and ideas on that album that I would like to personally think has to do a lot with Marty Friedman being on that album, because he was the other guitar player in Cacophony, and that was like a really, really big deal band to me too. So I don't know. Sorry, I kind of like them all a lot. I think Rain and Blood is the most important to thrash metal as a genre, but they're all good.
I think Ride the Lightning, if that is your personal favorite, that is a perfectly respectable pick. I was torn myself on
Except
this one.
that tune escaped. Sorry, Tyler.
It is. I can understand. I was listening to it and I was like, I get why someone would be like, this song sucks, because he kind of does that singy thing. But it's for some reason I like it.
I remember hearing back in high school, though, that was the one tune in the album that specifically, like, somebody in the studio was like, we should make this, like, kind of radio-friendly thing on purpose. And that's exactly what it sounds like.
It's funny because I don't remember the tune, so it didn't work.
It didn't work at all, and that's what makes it even worse.
You're talking about the song Escape, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fight for my own. It sounds like some, like, medieval motherfuckers right before they're going to go into war.
It's all about fucking die by my hand.
That riff is fucking sick. Dude, that's a great riff.
It makes me want to punch people, which is good.
Yeah.
Well,
This is what people tune in for, is us singing Metallica riffs.
So. I think we can all agree that like Slayer is the Rain and Blood is probably for thrash metal very important because it kind of helped spawn fucking Slayer as a whole spun death metal and black metal.
Hell yeah.
That's more to the
definitely,
point.
yep.
Within thrash, to your point, I feel like a lot of thrash bands were not scary like Slayer. Like a lot of the thrash stuff I've heard does sound like Anthrax. Like it's more
like
fun.
Exodus,
it's like
that kind of
goofy,
stuff,
silly
yeah.
kind of stuff, almost.
Does anybody have any, dark horse picks for best record maybe not mentioned among those 4 bands?
Like I said, I think Hell Awaits,
Hell Awaits
is the best Slayer record, man.
I gotta listen to it. I haven't listened to it in fucking forever.
Oh, dude.
I like Hell Awaits. I also like Haunting the Chapel a lot.
That shit is great, too, yeah.
I would have to pick
Show No Mercy is great, too.
definite dark horse pick for Slayer, Divine Intervention. Mid-90s Slayer
Mid-90s,
record.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a mean record.
I
South
just
of Heaven
like,
is mean, too.
Really like their lyrical content on that. It leaned away from the satanic stuff and more on the here's like our fucked up world,
Serial killer kind of stuff.
Like that kind of like in wars and there's like a song about World War I on there.
That's
I don't know. I like the dark lyrical matter, and it's very aggressive too for coming out in the mid 90s.
I think that's an interesting take, and I think that's a good segue into our next section where we're going to talk about the worst of the bands. But before, we're going to take a quick break here so we can get all situated,
Get our
wits
wits
about
us.
We'll be right back.
I see who you are with the laser, you little dickhead. Oh, aren't you so cool? Yeah, I saved all my allowance from Mommy to go buy a laser so I could shine it at Dave.
Jake
All right,
Babes.
we are back, and we are going to be showing Jared one of the deeper cuts from Stanger. or
Strange,
Stanger.
yeah.
Stanger.
In our previous segment, I touched on this notion of a sort of sublime horror when you're gazing upon something that is so beyond your comprehension that it would be scary, but rather you are transfixed because it's completely baffling. Your schema as it's existed in your life cannot possibly explain it. I said this in reference to Slayer earlier because they pushed the boundaries to such an extent that would be the response you would have to it. You don't know what to make of it, and you're sort of wrapped and horrified all at once. But there's another record we'll be touching on today that I think may embody this even more, and that is Metallica's Saint Anger, because this is a truly baffling and bizarre release. I cannot possibly explain why this record I can, actually. I mulled it over, and I came up with a good analysis of where this record came from and what it means, and why it has this effect of sublime horror on me, which is what kept me listening to it. Before we get into that, I think we should play this track, Dirty Window, and maybe give our takes on that, and then I can sort of clarify where I think this came from.
I would like to also clarify where I think... I'll start where I think this came from, because mine's probably a lot shorter than yours. It came from a band that was super fucking huge, and they were kind of at this crossroads in their lives where a lot of... they really, I don't think, knew what the fuck they wanted to do, or they wanted to do something a little different. They all had different ideas. James went through fucking rehab during the middle of the fucking recording. There was a lot of shit going on. I listened to that song I Disappear today, which was leaked onto Napster, and that, I believe, is the thing that helped spawn Lars's anti-Napster thing. I think it's just like a combination of it's proof that money and resources does not mean that you can create a great album.
That's not far off from my take, but I can give mine after we give this a listen.
So we're going to listen to Dirty Windows right now.
Track 4 from Saint Anger.
Track 4 from Saint Anger.
Stanger.
Here it is.
Good old Stanger. And immediately, it just hits you with...
It's like a bag of bricks.
Yeah, it's
incredible. It's an amazing
You don't know
album.
what is going on. What is being
That's
hit.
what I'm saying, dude. It's great.
And then it just goes into this It's
Definitely
like,
a Slipknot riff.
all right, we're
Oh,
grooving
yeah.
now, brother. Like,
I have to say, I actually like the guitar tone on this record, and I like Lars's dumb idiot moron snare drum.
I like the drumming more than I like the guitar tone. This is fucking bad.
yeah,
The snare sounds like a hammer on a fucking kitchen floor.
this record is truly a mystery wrapped in an enigma.
Well, this is my my take on that. That sublime horror I was referencing earlier. You're
Yeah.
gazing upon something you don't understand. This is Metallica doing that themselves, because Metallica, as we discussed earlier, they blew up when they were like 20 years old. If you watch the film Some Kind of Monster, it will become very apparent to you that these are men who never grew up. They're children. So what I think where this record came from is it's them gazing upon themselves and seeing that horror. They are gazing.
Yes.
They are encountering their shadow selves for the first time in their entire lives, because they never grew up and they never had to integrate the shadow like a normal person would.
Yeah.
And when they saw the shadow, they didn't know how to handle it. They have none of the emotional tools. I mean, we don't learn emotional intelligence in this country anyway, especially as men. But these guys didn't even get like emotional pre-K. I mean, they didn't even, completely unequipped to deal with having problems that humans would have. And so this is them lashing out as the fucking frustrated man-children they were, and they didn't even have the necessary emotional or perhaps musical technology
There we go.
to make good art out of it.
Yeah. Now I will say in this song,
That horror that beyond comprehension, that's them looking again at their shadow selves. They don't get it. They don't know what to do with it. All they can do is that snare drum. That's what was happening in their brains when they looked at that. When they finally had fucking problems.
I like the projector, protector, rejector. It's like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
I mean, it almost sounds like Lars is playing like a half D beat on this song or something.
I have no idea why he
let's
plays
turn it
drums
off.
the
I
way
think
that he
we're-
does.
The main
heard
riff of
enough.
this is
It's
actually
getting a little
almost
loud,
cool.
too.
But the riff, the tone for me is what's...
Well, that's what's insane about it.
Bow,
Everything
bow,
about
bow,
this-
bow. Like, that could be cool.
Everything about that record is 1 inch away from being good. They
Yeah.
just eat shit at the last second on
It's like
everything.
they
Yeah.
take like 10 steps back, like right when they shouldn't.
It's very stock.
They're so close, but they can't do it. Because they never grew up. That's arrested development. They can't fucking cross the finish line.
They weren't allowed to. They were. I mean, I know. We all know. If you don't know, essentially this band was going through fucking group therapy. This is Group Therapy, the album.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
That's
It's
really
incredible.
good. Yeah,
so the
yeah.
issue is you have so many. It's Lars being like, this is what I want to do, and normally you have fucking James and Kirk, and maybe Jason being like, no, or Bob fucking Rock being like, no, especially Bob fucking Rock.
He should know better.
He should fucking know better. Jesus Christ. And they like can't, because they're paying a psychologist hundreds of thousands
No,
of dollars.
This is precisely like my analysis of this psychoanalysis I'm doing. I'm not pulling out of my ass.
Yeah.
Like, this album is the product of Metallica being forced by their record label to confront their own demons for the first time in their fucking lives. And that's what
So,
they came up with, because
is
that's the only tools they had to fucking to engage with any of that.
Is this more demonic than any Slayer album then?
In a certain sense, yes. It's certainly
In
more
a
of a
visceral,
horror, yeah.
physical sense.
In a dirty
Yeah.
window
it's,
sense.
It's more of a horror.
Like a
it truly
personal
is.
horror,
It's
yeah.
it's a horror that we have all inside ourselves. Like, but
We are some kind of monster. There's some kind
There's
of
something
monster.
to that. There is.
Whoa.
They were almost onto something. You can look at it in James's lyrics and be like, he's almost getting to it. He's almost getting to this fascinating and important thing. But he's a retard. I don't know how else to put it. I mean that not in a degrading sense. I mean that in the truest sense.
No,
Like, you watch the movie, they are like emotionally retarded.
To-
Their level of emotional intelligence
go to my-
is in the fucking pits. So that's all they can come up with. And it's fascinating.
To go to my, this is, I guess, to
Fucking
come to
fascinating.
my true analysis of Metallica. I think that Metallica and maybe we'll have Metallica. Maybe in a couple of years, James Hetfield will be like, "Yeah, let's do it. I'm out of rehab finally." I would say my analysis of Metallica is that Metallica is proof that you don't necessarily have to be the most proficient or even very proficient or even mildly proficient at your instrument to become successful. And this and like pretty much everything in my mind after the Black Album is proof. In fact, I wouldn't even say the Black Album is proof, because if there wasn't Bob Rock, they would not have. He like pushed them to their limit. He was like, "No, Kirk, do the fucking solo again for The Unforgiven. That isn't good enough. James, write better fucking lyrics. Like, Lars, play to a fucking click track.
Well,
You fucking idiot." Like, he was pushing them, like, but not in a good way. He was pushing them into heights that they had not seen.
Like,
and they had a mission and a goal, because they had the big fan base at the time. And if they just wrote another fucking And Justice for All or Master of Puppets, they'd maintain their status, but they wouldn't be the Metallica that we know they are today.
This album is what happens when you have someone doing that to them outside the realm of the musical. They were able to pull that off. They had a professional causing them to push themselves as humans, and that was a bridge too far, because that required a level of maturity as people that they couldn't pull off.
Yeah, because they never had done that before.
They never had done that because they became famous when they were so young. I'm going to read a couple of the lyrics off of the song St. Anger.
Okay.
That's the song Invisible Kid.
Oh, Invisible Kid.
St.
Pardon me.
Great, good song, too.
Invisible kid locked away in his brain. From the shame and the pain, whirled down the drain. Invisible kid, suspicious of your touch. Don't want no crutch, but it's all too much. Now, this is fucking fascinating because, I mean, that's just something that a guidance counselor is handed. I mean, that is
That's like
words of a children. But Invisible Kid, that's fascinating again, because these were very visible kids. They became famous when they were super young. The Invisible Kid, their fucking shadow that we all carry as people, was completely invisible to them, and they confronted it as children would, and wrote those fucking lyrics.
That's right, because I remember you were talking about that, and I remember they had that song on there. It's like, that's kind of sounds exactly like what you were talking
People
about.
typically,
honestly.
you integrate the shadow gradually, and you usually do a decent job of it. These guys, due to their peculiar circumstances and the fact that they're not very smart, just never did that, I suppose. And when pressed to do so, they wrote something that sounded like something an 11-year-old would hand his guidance counselor.
With a dirty window.
And they wrote a song called Dirty Window.
Yeah.
I mean, how much better can you get than that?
There are musical elements of this record that I kind of like. I don't know, the fucking... I'm madly in anger with you. I'm madly in anger with you. That's kind of badass. I could fuck with that song. I like the title track on this record.
I would
It's good.
say, unlike fundamental levels, unlike objective levels, in my mind, for like the recording in and of itself, Saint Anger is a bad album. And so just to get back to the thesis of like this episode, so the worst albums that we're talking about are Saint Anger by Metallica, which we've discussed earlier, and we're going to be moving on to the next ones. This is all based on Rate Your Music still. Saint Anger, Diabolus and Musica, that's Slayers, Volume 8, The Threat is Real by Anthrax.
The threat is real with that one.
Threat is real.
It is real. You'll get ear cancer.
Can
if you
I
listen to
interject?
it too
Are there
much.
volumes 1 through 7 available from that band?
No,
I mean,
it's
that's
just,
the other 7 albums they did.
it's just the 8th album.
Oh, okay.
It's got an 8-ball on the cover.
Yes. Oh, my God. And then Megadeth's
Pretty sharp.
Super Collider, which we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. People say Super Collider is the worst. Risk is way worse.
You know what I think it is with Super Collider? Like
They put out
a
Endgame.
record label head guy was like, "Hey, you know that band Avenged Sevenfold is pretty big.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys write something like that?"
That's what I see. Super Collider I listened to, and there were moments I enjoyed. There's a song called Kingmaker that's...
Oh, that song is good.
I mean, it's
King.
It's very, very catchy. It's a catchy record. It's super cock rocky.
Go off, King.
I got a Guns N' Roses kind of vibe from some of it. I listened to 20 seconds of Mustaine's insufferable commentary on the record, and he said he wanted to go for like a cross between like Pinball Wizard era Who and like for those about to rock era AC/DC, and that's pretty much what it's like. It's Mustaine doing like a pop rocky
weird.
Who thing. I like it a bit because his attempts to be more poppy caused him to rein in some of the noodly virtuoso guitar stuff.
Now,
and there are some good hooks. There's hooks on that.
Here's showcases a trend of Megadeth. You have 3 albums. So they came back really with a bang with Endgame, which in my opinion is just as good as fucking Rest in Peace. It's like fucking. They have a new lineup.
When did that come out?
2009.
Same year as the Avengers movie.
So
Also starring Dave Mustaine.
yes.
Dave Mustaine is Thanos.
You have
Thanos.
You have a new lineup. Chris, who's it?
Chris Poland.
Chris Broderick.
His name is Chris Poland.
Chris Broderick
That
is
was one of
fucking
the
sick.
one of the guitar players.
I have a signature 7-string of his that I bought. It's
Is it the
very good.
Ibanez?
No, Jackson.
Really?
Yes, it's really dope.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
They have a new lineup. You have 3 albums. Yeah, we'll say 3 albums because it goes Endgame, 13, Super Collider. 13 is unlike now interesting. Unlike the 6 Feet Under album, 13 is the 13th album.
Yeah, here
But-
I'll load up a.
Megadeth has 13 albums.
They have like
They got
15
more than
albums.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
How many
it's
albums
funny.
How many albums does Iron Maiden have?
20 maybe.
An absurd number.
To go back to Megadeth, they came out with Rust in Peace, and then the subsequent album. See, that's the one you may like.
By
Jake,
Megadeth.
the one after Rust in Peace.
What's it called? Endgame, right?
No. What's the second?
Avengers
Countdown to
Endgame.
Extinction.
Countdown to Extinction. You might like that one.
Okay.
What is it called?
Countdown to Extinction.
Oh,
It's
The
like
92 one.
That's really them trying to do like a more streamlined Metallica Black Album.
Is that
Not
radio
even. I don't think they're
friendly.
trying to do that. I think it's more just like
It came
let's
out
do
that way to
let's-
me,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That is Risk. That is literally. He says it on an interview. It's like Risk was like us trying to do the Black Album. If any other band, he said, this is a quote. If any other band had put out that album, it would have done numbers. To which I say, why the fuck would you put that album out? It's like no one else. If this was someone else, this album would be good. That's like, well, yeah, but you're not someone else. You're Megadeth.
Holy
you
shit.
fucking idiots.
Here's the Kingmaker
All right,
song.
let's
gonna
pause
play
it.
the
We're gonna
acoustic
pause it
version?
real quick, so because this is boring when people listen to us just
No, we
be
can
like,
keep,
wow.
we can keep talking. Just turn it down.
is Countdown to Extinction before or after Euthanasia?
That is before.
Okay.
We're gonna pause it real quick.
Okay.
All right, so we just listened to a couple songs from Megadeth, specifically Kingmaker, because Jared, who's in the bathroom right now, hadn't heard it, and so here's this is what I think. Super Collider, which again we're going by Rate Your Music, that is not the worst Megadeth album.
I
And
like
don't-
it. It's good.
It's honestly not. It's really not bad. It's just
It's really
like,
corny. It's like
it's-
poppy, and
It's
sucks, but-
maybe disappointing for like.
And you know why it's the
Megadeth
lowest
fans.
related? Because if you're a Megadeth nerd who wants like noodly skull riffs from Metal Lord Mustaine, and then you hear this record where he's trying to write Pinball Wizard,
Kingmaker.
you're gonna be resentful of it.
Yes. Which I think Risk is the worst one. Risk is really fucking bad because they were really actively trying to like get a hit, and it's like that's
That's
the
when
last
it's
thing
like
you should
it not.
be doing.
That like guarantees the record is gonna be shit when you're trying to fucking pander and you just come off like a bunch of old lame ass.
As I said, that's insanely sad that someone a grown ass man who was as talented as Mustaine was doing that. Like he could do anything.
Yeah, right? Like, and he gets like the most talented, like not the most talented, but like some of the
They're pretty
incredible
talented.
lead guitar players.
Marty Friedman.
And
Yeah.
he's just like
Rhythm section great
play
too.
bullshit.
I think this is my issue with Megadeth. I think that speaks to why they never really grabbed me. There's like a kind of spiritual poverty to it that just never
like
locked
it's like
me
it
in.
feels kind of empty.
Yes,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And I think that's something
Like it's
that-
vapid,
That's
yeah.
something. Yeah, vapid would be a good word for it. I think that has something to do just fundamentally with fucking Mustaine as a person. I mean, Metallica are fuckheads and I hate them, but they're pretty fascinating and like
Right,
they
they're-
have some soul.
You're never gonna meet somebody like Lars Ulrich ever in your
they've
fucking
got
life.
character, you know. They've got character, and it's reflected even in their terrible music.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, with the way that I appreciate music, that I guess has some purchase with me.
I'm gonna steal that. Spiritual Poverty. It's a good band name. The album name.
Thanks, dude. I do this for a living, so
Yeah. I think that lets us go to.
I mean,
the
speaking
next,
of pandering,
speaking of pandering,
the Anthrax album.
the Anthrax album,
Volume
is
8,
like
the threat is real.
yeah, the threat is real. Like real, it's real to your fucking eardrums. Cause holy shit.
The threat is real.
The end is now.
Yeah, hey, switch some of those letters around. Oof.
What are they saying, man?
What are you saying, Scott Ian?
Do they have nukes or something? I don't know.
It's crazy that he fucking wrote that.
What, like a bunch of generic Blink-182 and Foo Fighters knockoffs?
Yeah. So if you haven't, let's.
It's not that good.
Can you sync up a song so we can actually get a? We're gonna try and get a live reaction.
Catharsis.
That's the song. I think.
Yeah, Catharsis is the one.
Here I got.
This album in and of itself is, and I think maybe that's why it's the worst to me. So I'll jump right ahead. This is the worst. This is the worst out of all of them.
I agree.
Saint Anger is like that can be funny. It can be interesting, and it makes me want to maybe listen to it again. I never in my fucking life want to hear this album
The
again.
fucking 8-ball.
And I don't think anyone should listen to it.
Wait, can we please do the one with the lyrics on it?
Yeah, let me get the lyrics.
Yeah.
for you.
Oh, I
Here's-
don't know what the lyrics are.
They're probably embarrassing.
We should listen to a country song too. One of the country. Yeah, guys, there's country songs.
Are you
on
shitting
this.
me?
No,
Isn't
like,
Isn't there a song with a talk box?
there's another song with a fucking talk box on
That-
it.
that's
Ripped
not
off
Metallica?
Load, yeah.
Holy shit!
On the song the house that Jack built, there's a
Oh,
talk
yeah.
box, and then 2 years later, we have a fucking song with a talk box on Anthrax.
It's like they're trying to blend new metal and alt rock and pop
That
punk.
guy has the fucking Jason Mraz hat on in a metal band.
These days I've been so hard, man. To live my life for someone else, in fear of being honest with myself. These are the lyrics, everybody. I perpetrated a lie.
It sounds like Godsmack.
This is. Was Godsmack a thing in '98?
I think they were. That's when their first record came out, I think.
I think this inspired it.
This is.
I perpetrated a lie.
Look at his t-shirt.
Look at his shirt. He got that shit from Spencer's.
It makes no sense. Like.
I don't know. Tyler. I think this is their version of Saying Anger. I mean, this is unrecognizable to me as Anthrax the band.
They got, there's a
think,
couple
This
Pantera
doesn't,
knockoffs.
at the very least, yes, Metallica. Saint Anger doesn't necessarily sound like a classic Metallica album, but it sounds more like Load and Reload than this does to fucking like the more classics. Like Load and Reload are like big albums.
There's no way you're going to listen to Saint Anger and not know it's Metallica. Again,
Yeah.
this is the point I made earlier. Those guys are fucking guys. Like,
Yeah.
you know when it's fucking Metallica. They're
Same thing
big
with Megadeth. You know it's
personalities.
Megadeth, and then we'll get to
Yeah.
Slayer. It's Slayer. This is like.
I mean,
this
this is bad.
Anthrax. What the fuck
I
happened?
think the fact that this is more competent than the bad Metallica record.
This is
that-
way more confident.
It actually, and confident and confident.
Oh, yeah,
That
okay.
actually makes it worse. Like the
Yes.
fact that they're playing good makes it fucking horrible.
I mean, this sounds like the lighter Disturbed albums I've
Here's-
listened to in eighth grade.
Oh, I listened to every Disturbed album fucking recently, and my
Cool.
God,
Get a load of this
that
song,
album.
though.
That band is so bad.
This is
It was-
Anthrax.
It was Disturbed. It was the Disturbed and In Flames challenge. I don't know why
The
those
In
two
Flames
bands.
channel. Oh, that's amazing.
That was, I mean, that's bravery right there. I'm sorry, doing the In Flames challenge, because
Oh
that
my
is,
God,
you gotta be,
That's like a Swedish death metal band, right?
mellow death band.
but it's like even worse.
Marshmallow
than that, though.
death
It's
metal.
like-
they become straight up new metal. Like
no.
Oh, dude, this
can't
is
sound like
unbelievable.
Yeah,
this.
this is Anthrax.
This is Smashing Pumpkins, dude. This is fucked.
we got.
Holy shit!
Harmonica.
Oh my god!
Hey Dan Lilker, what do you think about it?
I mean, I'm glad I left back in '84, so I never had to be a part of this shit.
Wait, I thought Neil Turbin kicked you out.
This sounds
No,
like
I
Tom
left.
Petty and fucking Sublime in the Dave Mirra soundtrack. This is
yeah,
fucking
Neil
bad.
Turbin was too short as a frontman, so I left.
He should have put on a turban, and he'd be as tall as me.
Actually, if people don't know, Dan Loker lives in Rochester, and we are kind of acquainted with him to some extent.
He let us play. He had one of our bands play his retirement show.
Yeah.
He let
For,
me and
yeah.
my old bandmates, we weren't playing the show, but when DRI played at the Montage, we went upstairs and smoked weed with him, and that was
Oh, that's
cool.
cool.
I think we were all at our age, probably.
But see, now you can go up to him anytime and be like, "Dude, you remember that one time I smoked weed with you?"
And he'll be like,
No.
No.
leave me
He
alone.
rules, though. Shout out, Dan.
I remember him
Yeah, he's a
telling-
good guy. He's a good
Yeah,
guy.
he's awesome.
I remember him telling us, like, yeah, man, all these people always come up to me, like, oh, man, like 15 years ago we, like, smoked weed. And he's just like, I don't remember. And they get mad. And we were just like, that's the funniest thing ever. Because fuck them.
I mean, you know, it's
One of the chicks, a chick who was playing in Bastard Noise. I remember, what's his wife's name?
oh, Heather.
Heather. Yeah, Heather was telling us about how, like, the chick in Bastard Noise was like,
This sounds like Shinedown.
like, you don't remember me. And he's just like, I don't, whatever.
This sounds like fucking Creed, dude. This is really
You know
bad.
what the guitar? You know what the guitar
This
riff sounds like? It sounds like one of those stock keyboard riffs that Wesley Willis would use.
Yeah.
Yes.
The fucking
You're listening-
Casio
what
backing
song is
track.
this?
Casio sample setting.
What song is this?
This song is "Toast to the Extras."
Toast to the Extras.
To the
Do
who?
you have any lyrics for that, Tim?
Toast to the Extras. Let me see if
The
I can
extras?
Here, pause it for a second. Pause
Extras, like
the-
extras in a movie.
EXTRAS.
This is Toast to Exodus.
Yo.
Is Exodus
Dude,
good?
it sounds like the Wesley Willis Casio shit.
And it's
This
literally
is-
playing by itself right now after the second chorus. That's
Scott
exactly
Ian
what
is
he
a
did.
big rock star. He can rock it like a magicist.
Like,
Anthrax
lyrics-
is a good band. They played
here,
at the Starlight
Tim, stop.
Bathroom.
Here, Tim, turn it off, so we can really.
Volume
And it's not
8,
even
the threat
done
is
yet? What the
You
real.
want me to
Oh,
read the
you
lyrics
babe,
for
the
this
threat
song?
is real.
Let's hear this. Yeah, let's hear the lyrics for this. This could either be the best episode or the worst.
I don't know, yeah.
What are the lyrics to this?
Swimming on the surface, it's a hell of a lot safer up here. Ain't prepared to dive and uncover all my darkest fears. This ain't no covert operation. I don't have that much concentration. Staring at the clock and my patience is wearing thin.
So,
Pretty bad, guys.
is that better than Saint Anger though?
No, it's not.
No, because the fact that the Saint Anger lyrics are so stupid is why they're kind of good. I mean, as I already covered it, like watching Metallica try to grapple with being human beings for the first time ever is fucking fascinating.
I think
This
Saint
is
Anger.
just like self-indulgent fucking garbage, and it's with a Casio tone guitar.
I think Saint
Yeah,
Anger is
right.
better than this album, from what I've heard so
Yeah,
far. And I
yeah,
can't believe
gotta
I'm
be.
saying that sentence out loud ever about
Saint Anger
anything.
I'll just say it now, and we can come back to it. Saint Anger is the best of these bad albums.
Yeah.
I think
I think it's like
it's the one I would listen to again.
It's the one where you'll put it on with friends and be like, "This is fun. This is a fun album. Maybe not good, but like, you know what? Some of the best shit in the world isn't good. Like,
That's
it's
a
like
fact.
it's a good bad movie. You know?
Oh yeah. It's like a car fucking crash. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like The Room. It's The Room of metal.
Room.
Yeah, totally.
Now, so this is I think the biggest issue with this Anthrax album is that they were seriously like, because the album before this is pretty bad too. Stomp 442. That was them being like, yeah. That, again, I don't know what the fuck that means. Here, Tim, let's not do any more.
I can just leave it at the album's
It's
called
very
Stomp
this album is very
442.
varied.
Wait, Tyler, what year was Volume 8?
1998.
98.
Damn,
And I
that's
think
really
I
early
think-
to be this
here- 'cause
fucking
here's
bad.
the thing.
know.
Yeah.
That's before Saint Anger? Holy
Yeah, 5 whole
shit.
years.
Because like it goes this. If we want to include Risk in I think Risk is the worst Megadeth. but we're not going to include Risk because we're talking about Super Collider's the worst. But Risk came out in 99. This came out in 98. Diabolus and Musica came out in
98.
Now here's the thing. Saint Anger should have come out like a year sooner or 2 years sooner if James didn't have to go to fucking rehab and didn't have to go to the fucking, let's talk about our feelings club for fucking 2 years. And James, I'm used to the drummer playing a beat,
Just seems very stock.
So I think the late for the 80s bands, the late 90s must have been the worst.
That was the
period because
kryptonite. Yeah,
that was when not even because that was when nu metal was going on, and so they couldn't even be like grunge was a thing.
Oh, before you got to the house, me and Jacob were listening to the 5th Danzig record that came out in 1996.
Ooh.
It's him trying to beat Trent Reznor,
Like
dude.
straight up. It sounds like a Nine Inch Nails record.
He's trying to, but it's like
terrible.
downward spiral.
Well,
specifically.
To quote another podcast, they were talking about the 4th one on Demo Listen.
Danzig?
The 4th Danzig, and I think they say when they said it's like the first album that Danzig isn't trying to sound like Danzig anymore.
Yeah.
There are some good songs. If I remember, there's some like decent Danzig songs on there. But then there are songs where it's like
kind of grungy almost.
It's like
right?
this isn't a Danzig song. This doesn't sound like
it was a
Danzig
mistake
to me.
for him to drop his mask and become a human on it. It was not a good.
Oh, straight
move.
up.
Yeah.
Or try and trace a trend or something like that, or like a specific sound.
I think him and Hetfield were hanging out at that point, and you can tell on both of their ends.
I mean, Mama Said, How's the Jack Bill? That's all. Danzig's got his paws all over those
2x4
tracks.
2x4. So let's go. The last album we got to talk about is Diabolus and Musica, which is the Slayer album in '98.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like the least offensive, I think, because it still sounds like Slayer, but also it has like the stupidest elements of nu metal in it, which is the whisper screaming. Not the whisper screaming, just the whispers.
What'd you say? Like, what do you call the radio?
And the drive-through
filter?
vocals,
Yeah.
where it's just like super distorted, and it's just like, what is going? Like, why did you even do this? Like, this is stupid. But there's not really, and then there's like the boring groove shit that they do.
Yeah,
but I
fucking
think,
love Pantera.
I think that's just Pantera effect. That's just groove metal effect.
Or it could be an indicator of how pervasive nu metal was. I feel like we all forget about that.
Yeah.
That was the shit for a second. Yeah. It was supposed to be like...
Isn't there a video of Kerry King being like...
He took a Celtic Frost CD and he threw it on the ground and he like stomped on it.
That's what it was.
On that Eddie Trunk show on VH1.
That's pretty fucked.
We gotta get that clip.
It was on YouTube. I tried looking for it. They took it down. Kerry King himself was like...
No, nu metal was supposed to be the new thing. I remember I read an interview with Davey Havok from back in the day where they're asking him, like, are there any new big bands you like? And he's like, well, I think bands like Korn and Limp Bizkit suck, but I'm glad that they're getting kids back into playing guitar music. Like, that was like a hegemonic influence on rock music at that point. There was like nothing else going on. So that's how I guess you end up with even Slayer adopting some of the elements of it. How did you describe it, Jared? You said it was like System of a Down.
The little I've heard of Diabolus and Musica sounded like an angrier version of System of a Down's first record, which I think is actually pretty cool. But
that's not that bad.
You know what?
Yeah.
That's not the worst thing that could be said about it. And I guess angrier than those Armenians.
tough.
How could you get angrier than them?
Another great album title.
About.
I mean, late 90s, guys, was either, Limp Bizkit or Oasis. You didn't have a lot to choose from,
That's actually a really good point, I guess.
They had to go one way or the other.
And see, they all fucked up because, like, imagine if they were just like, fuck it, we're just going to do a Slayer album. We're just going to play what we play. That would have
That goes back to, like you said, with Anthrax, where it's like, hey,
it's just
guys,
one of those
instead
days.
Trying to get a hit song and, like, fucking around with all this stupid bullshit, like, ripping off pop punk and fucking Foo Fighters or whatever. Like, why don't you just try to make, like, the fans you made happy with your shit, like, years ago.
That was, I think if all those bands look back, they'd be like, especially like the bands that weren't like as big, like a Slayer or an Anthrax, even a Megadeth. They'd probably be like, it would have been smarter for us to try and like just keep our current fans happy as opposed to trying to get new fans, because it's like it's such a turbulent and like wild time in the guitar music. Them going from like thrash metal to like new metal or groove, it's like not they aren't able to, thrash metal bands especially aren't really able to like evolve their sound.
Yeah, it's a pretty limited genre, which is maybe why it didn't hold my attention that much. I mean, I as I said, moved on to like being into black metal and stuff later. I think black metal actually offers a fair degree of artistic freedom.
So much
sure,
more.
A lot of black metal fans would disagree with me about that, but can't imagine something I
think
care
black
about
metal
less than
fans-
their opinions.
I think black metal fans would agree with you. I think there's a lot of black
Okay.
metal has such a huge array of like different sounds and styles that thrash metal does not have. Like what's thrash metal have? Like, we have the Teutonic stuff, which is kind of like
Fucking sick.
which is sick. I love all of it. And you have like the 86 stuff, and like you have like the
like maybe a couple
bigger
Brazilian bands.
Brazilian bands.
I mean,
But how different are they from each other?
the very sound of it is regimented. It's all that like lockstep rhythm. Like that's what makes thrash metal. That is what's good about it too.
I
It's
think
very
you can-
bracing sounding.
You can even hear a difference with American thrash metal, I think, like compared, East Coast stuff to, like the Bay Area where, like, I think...
I mean, yes, there is a difference, but like compared to,
well, you're right, it's not super...
it's like,
I
not
think you'd have to be
that
more...
stylistically. Whereas
Yeah.
black metal, and like I would say thrash metal overall has not had the evolution that black metal has.
No,
I think thrash metal's thing though is like it's a pretty big stepping stone into a lot of other like very innovative subgenres of metal. I think there's a lot more virtuosic like techniques and just things about thrash metal as opposed to just straight up like heavy metal that like bleeds into other things, like a band like Atheist, for example, which is like a technical like death thrash band with like a lot of like jazz elements, but like it doesn't really feel like that. But like if those guys didn't come from wanting to play thrash metal, I don't think it would have evolved into that band and genre in the first
from a
place.
musical point of view, there's a lot of jumping off points from different directions you can go into
Yeah.
from thrash metal. I guess it's unfortunate that these groups went in.
These four.
We're compelled to go in this
These murky
particular
guys.
The big
direction.
four.
Yeah.
Thrash metal was a necessary evolution because, I mean, if you even like the first Metallica album, and like even the most recent one actually, it has like it's very influenced by new wave of British heavy metal. You can like tell.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, they were listening to.
What year was this?
The Kill 'Em All was 83, and the new one is 2016. And there's definitely a couple songs on there where it's like, oh, they're like, in my opinion, I feel like
What's
they
the
were
name
like,
of that album?
Hardwired to Self-Destruct.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
It's
Okay,
pretty
yeah.
good. It's honestly,
That's
their
a double
best-
album, isn't it?
I think so. It's their best thing they've done.
Double
in like
platinum.
20 fucking.
The way I felt about that, I briefly listened to it probably one or two times through, but it seemed like it was like, okay, like they're finally really trying to get in touch with their roots, which I like. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
thank the Lord, fuck, they're trying to do that. But it was so obvious that they were like trying to like, okay, how can we literally recreate this song? Like they have like one song that's like just straight up trying to be one from Justice for All. Like the music video's about a fucking dude in the army that literally gets like blown up and all this shit. It's got this clean guitar intro for a long time, and then they have this machine gun riff at the end. I mean, it was like a spitting image of the song, but just like way worse. And so I was like, I commend the idea that they wanted to try to get in touch with those things, but it's still just everything fell short as to what it was trying to do. But definitely some riffs here or there on some of the tunes where it's
Yes.
like, okay, this is like of Wolf and Man level riffage. Like this is pretty good, but I'd probably listen to it like once every 3 years.
I could be remembering wrong, but I don't think I am. When Saint Anger came out, like music critics reviewed it pretty well. And I can even remember some music critics saying it was like them getting back to their roots because it sounded angry. And if I'm remembering correctly, I
Saint
just
Angry.
hope all those music critics were fired because
Yeah, they fucked up.
that's insane.
I mean, I could see Rolling Stone. They're
That's in the
notorious
same
for
category.
going back
That's like
on
the
their
guys
word.
at the New York Times that were pushing the Iraq War. Like all of those journalists. I hope
Same
they
thing.
go
On the
learn to
same
code or
level.
something.
I think Death Magnetic is like the album that was reviewed well.
I think that could be one of their worst ones, honestly.
That is one of their
I
worst
think
ones.
that shit is. You want to talk about like a total retread? Like that was back when like all those bands like Warbringer and Evil, I think, were like starting to pop off.
Yep.
Evil is sick.
I
don't know if that's a popular opinion or not, but Evil was really cool. And then it's.
I mean, I actually like that band Warbringer too.
I don't know
that was a
Warbringer
good
as
one.
much.
No, the Warbringer. They're from
the
California.
Australian? Oh, they're from California. Okay. But yeah, Death Magnetic, at least the original version, which I think if we gotta, it is it's an atrocity to, and it's worse than Saint Anger.
Well, it's like bombs going off in your
It
ear.
is
I've never listened
it
to
is
it.
the
I remember it
master.
got great reviews.
The mastering on that is so bad. I don't know how they did it. Fuck Rick Rubin. Officially, fuck Rick
fuck
Rubin.
you, Rick-
How the
Rick
fuck
Rubin.
did you
Is
do
that the guy
that?
from Def Jam Records?
Yep.
Yes.
He did the Danzig records,
did-
and I think he
who
did the
did
Black
fucking-
He did
He did
Slayer
Ludacris
too.
album.
He
Rain
put
and
the Slayer
Blood.
records
He did all the
out.
Slayer
Like,
stuff.
it's like, how did you listen to that and go, this is good?
You know what else he did? He did the Red Hot Chili Peppers Blood Sugar Sex Magic too.
Hell yeah, fuck yeah.
And the Johnny Cash record from when he was like dying.
That is a good one.
That is a good one.
That was good.
You know
yeah.
what?
Death Magnetic. I'll have to check that out next.
What I guess
Death
talk
Magnetic.
Talk about a producer that is like, he did Yeezus, and I like that album a lot. So, but he it's just I listened to it at work. I listened to Death Magnetic at work, and I was just like, I had to turn it down so quiet, and it was still too loud.
Hey, on post, can you
Yeah.
go back on that part where you say you like the record Yeezus and put cricket noises on that silence there?
I love Yeezus. And I guess we're kind of, this is the time where we kind of wrap it up. So I guess, what do we think is the worst one?
In conclusion, fuck Rick
Do we do
Rubin.
all four?
We did all
We
four.
talked about all four.
Diabolus and Musica. There's not.
I
much to
didn't
be
hear
talked
anything from the
about.
Megadeth one though. Or
Oh,
I
that was
did.
Super Collider. The song Kingmaker.
The Kingmaker, yeah.
Oh,
that
my
was,
bad, my
yeah.
bad. It was
That's
so
what
bad
you
I
do.
totally forgot about it.
It's just it's whatever. It's just like a throwaway. It's them being like, let's do more poppier, kind of like more direct songs with like catchier stuff, and it's like, that's not bad, but it's like that's not why people like fucking Megadeth.
It's got hooks though. I gotta give him.
But
give
see,
it
It
to him.
that's
is
why
catchy.
I
Hooks
think
on
you
It
would
really
like
is.
Countdown to Extinction because
Okay.
Countdown has some good more hook-based songs.
I'm being prescribed Mustaine pills.
Yeah.
By Dr. Tyler.
Go off, King. Maker.
I think we can all agree that it's pretty clearly Anthrax is taking the lead in that regard.
Yeah, that's fucking
I mean,
terrible,
dude, that
man.
Wesley Willis Casio guitar riff rocked my shit. Volume 8.
98 too. Like that's not even 2000 yet, and it's that bad. I mean, that's
That's
just
step-
fucked.
Yeah.
Like, how did you guys do like, why? Did you think that someone would be fooled by it?
You know, and it's funny too because I'm pretty sure I've read that like Scott Ian would be like, oh, they didn't want to give us a fair shake because we're like a thrash metal band. It's like, what are you talking about? Like these songs aren't. This is fucking
You
garbage.
could shake my dick, Scotty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take your ass back
like,
to
you know-
fucking VH1, bitch ass.
Get that
Outta
Pharaoh
here.
beard out of here.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
the Shava Odadiji.
But here's the thing: Scott Ian has like a bunch of good, like I don't know, a bunch of that SOD
I mean, that's
record
the
is
first
fucking
SOD
awesome.
record.
SOD is good,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and like some of those early Anthrax records are good. Like
Speak English.
I just don't. And I got the new Mr. Bungle album. He's
Oh
on.
yeah, right.
Yeah, who gives a shit?
More crickets effect.
That that
Mr.
could
Bungle.
please get the
Hey, I
cricket.
love Mr. Bungle. Me and Tim like Mr. Bungle.
They're
but-
pretty good.
But here's the thing.
What the fuck is Mr. Bungle?
You don't know Mr. Bungle?
Singer from Faith No More's original band.
Yeah, it's like a Primus thing, right? Am I wrong?
No.
I guess you could say that.
I do
Not
like
really at
Primus,
all.
so now I'm intrigued. But
Okay.
You honestly,
It's closer to
Jared,
Red
you
Hot
would
Chili
probably
Peppers.
You would probably like it. You say that, but that's really only the first album, and it's hard, and that's like half of it. I would say if you listen to the second one, Disco Volante, that has the compositions on that are crazy. Like
Well, actually, California.
California are really-
You would probably
is
like
really
that
good,
one
too.
a lot.
I've never heard it, but I think they're right that you would like it.
you would probably
Mr.
like it on
Bungle.
like a compositional level because they are like those are like trained musicians. Like Trace Barant's the guitarist.
Trained
They are. It is
military veterans.
Mr. Bungle is one of my favorite bands, and huge fucking influence in like me learning like what songs could be, and them re-recording the first demo, "Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny," and making just thrash metal. Because that album, so that demo came out in like '86, and they have. On the when they redid it, they have Scott Ian playing guitar, and they have fucking Dave Lombardo drumming.
Dave Lombardo, godfather of drums. Yeah, that's awesome.
Which is cool because it's like, oh man, like when like they were recording this demo, it's literally kids, like 18-year-olds and 16-year-olds. Like Dave Lombardo was fucking slamming on fucking Rain and Blood.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool thing, but at the same time, who fucking cares?
I love Lombardo's drumming, by the way.
I love
Lombardo.
But if I'm going to hear a remake of a fucking album, I want to hear every single member. I don't care that Dave Lombardo. It's like I'll just listen to Slayer.
I want Joey V from Up the Block back on that fucking recording.
Whatever.
Lombardo playing for the Misfits when they did shows recently. I was like,
know.
Why? What is up with that?
Fun fact about Lombardo: he got fired from Slayer for bringing his wife on tour.
Really?
Well, now he's with Suicidal Tendencies, which is clearly much marital
and
friendly.
And Dead Cross, I think too.
Oh yeah, that
Dead Cross, and then they should just fucking do Phantomas. I'll say that. They just do Phantomas again. They already got three out of the four fucking good members. Fucking get rid of Scott Ian's stupid beard and like get King Buzzo.
Chop that beard off, and then
Sorry, this is a dumb tangent. I'm just mad that they were like that. I see people on my timeline being like, "Wow, this is really fucking good," and it's like, yeah, I just listened to the original fucking demo from like '86.
Scott Ian.
Who cares about Scott Ian?
Scott Ian, congratulations. Worst album belongs to you, pal.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Scott?
We should look up to see if there's footage of him being interviewed about
from
Volume
'98.
8.
Yeah,
about Volume 8. Yeah.
I bet that's a time and era like they want to try and remain buried.
The one other topic I was going to... Can we agree that Diabolus in Musica is the least bad of the bad albums?
Yeah.
But
so.
But Saint Anger is the best of the bad albums.
Yes. I think
could
that's
get with
fun.
that.
Both of those are good things about both of those albums.
Yes, yeah. I think that's our final word on that. Do we want to wrap this up?
I think we're good. I think we're good to wrap it up.
No fucking regrets.
Well, Scott Ian, sorry, you're the biggest loser here.
You have the worst beard, Scott Ian. James, he got confused for a terrorist at the airport.
Holy
I don't see you
shit.
beating that, Scott. I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah, that happened, yeah.
Inshallah.
They thought he was like Al-Qaeda, I swear.
First off,
Al-Qaeda.
I will not say the name James Hetfield without the title Sheikh.
What? What do you mean?
It's Sheikh James Hetfield.
Sheikh? What is...
You don't know what a sheikh is?
No, I don't know what a
I'm
sheikh
confused,
is.
Jacob.
Oh,
It's
a
a-
sheik?
It's pronounced Sheikh.
I don't fucking know.
God damn, you ignorant motherfuckers.
God, what the... Sheikh. No one... Literally... It's the Iron Sheik. That's
Did we watch that video with
how
Dave
people
Grohl,
say it.
Corey Taylor,
So
and
it's
Scott
Sheik.
Ian?
Now I guess
Covering
I learned something.
Pantera?
And you know what?
Holy
Pantera.
shit, that's
I
a gold
think-
mine. We should click on that.
I think our audience has learned something too today with that. So we're
Jacob is
gonna
more
we're
Jewish
gonna
than the
end
rest
it
of us.
here, folks.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up.
We're gonna have new episodes every Wednesday. Eventually, we're probably gonna do some bonus episodes next week. I'm not sure what we're probably gonna try and do another interview. Have another guest on. Want to thank Jared for coming out. I mean, you were in town for the Thanksgiving. Do you have any final words? Any shout outs? Any plugs?
Yeah, any plugs? Anything you're doing, projects you want to promote potentially. We want this to be a platform for our guests because we appreciate, you coming here. And, we will have more guests in the future because I think it really adds to the chemistry. So, yeah, any closing words, plugs, etc.?
Unfortunately, I don't have any plugs. I should really put out an album or do something of some kind in this probably oncoming next quarantine. I should really do that. But no, guys, thanks so much for having me. This was really, really fun. It was just really cool to be around a bunch of other people that really know their shit and want to talk about this, but like actually know it. And it's, I don't have this experience often. This has been really great, guys. This is awesome.
Let me hit you with one last question. What is your favorite thrash metal album. Not talking about Big Four. We're not talking about any era, just of all time. You're like, you're on a desert island. You can have one thrash metal album. Which one would you pick?
I'd say Piece of Time by Atheist.
Perfect. I remember at a party, I think Radioactive Snowshoe played.
Oh, God damn.
Beastman.
Atomic Horseshoe.
And,
on Genesee Street?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
that was
was
a
wearing
great show.
I was wearing. I think maybe you were wearing your Piece of Time shirt, and then I think maybe, or I was, and it was like, I think I was, and you were like, you told me, oh, thank God, I was gonna wear my Piece of Time shirt, and I'm glad I didn't, because we both can't have it.
That's awesome. But close runner-up would definitely be Morbid Saints' first album.
Yes, that one's really good.
Extremely, extremely good.
All right, well, this has been Kings of Punk. I'm your host, Tyler.
This is Jake Razor here. Again, pleasure to host Mr. Jared Tinkham here, the Gitbox God himself.
And I'm Tim.
And we'll see you next week.